and welcome to the Anime Explorations podcast. My name is Alex.
I'm Tora.
I'm David.
And as with last July, I'm once again joined by a special guest.
Hi, I am Blaine.
Yeah, and we are a monthly anime book club style podcast where we watch a anime film or television series. In this case, it's a film, and talk about it. Usually before we start the show, the main discussion, we do some conversation about what else we're watching and what's happening in anime and similar media as well. So we'll start with Blaine. What have you been watching at the moment, either anime or otherwise?
The only anime I've watched aside from this since the last recording was the first season of Dr. Stone, because one of the students in my science fiction option that I teach chose that as her focus. In terms of other stuff I am watching Babylon 5 for a podcast, and with that podcast, my co-host and I have decided to also watch anything JMS contributed to before that, and me being me, if there's a shared universe of continuity, I'm watching that stuff too. So that means I have been watching Murder, She Wrote, Matlock, Jake and the Fat Man, The Twilight Zone, and The Real Ghostbusters. And our other podcast that's premiering on September 8th, 2026 is the Star Trek Reading Hour. We recorded episode 10 this morning. So also rewatching Star Trek, the original series and the animated series to go along with our coverage of the Bliss adaptations of the original series and the Alan Dean Foster adaptations of the animated, which take very different approaches, and we like Foster's better, but you'll hear a lot more about that starting 2026 if you tune in. So that is what I have been watching.
Very nice. Actually doing a little bit of Star Trek reading, though not of a novel. Well, novel length, but not of like a published novel. I recently read the novel length Star Trek fanfic, We Have Engaged the Borg, an oral history of the Battle of Wolf 359, which is very, very good. Came out 2 years ago this week as of recording. I'll probably actually have a vlog review discussing it on the main YouTube channel. But long story short, very well written. Definitely interested, definitely recommend it. I'm also probably going to end up rewatching Best of Both Worlds Parts 1 and 2 after this, because it's made me want to rewatch those and rewatch Family.
Is that the one related to the Wolf 359 project?
Yes, the fact that is the Wolf 359 project is they did the oral history. They did the oral history, and then they did and they're doing the ships of the battle.
Is it on AO3?
No, yes, it is on AO3. They also have a PDF version of it, which is what I read, because the PDF version has some very nice formatting stuff going on with it, in terms of using LCAR's interface presentation and that sort of thing, and even using that for content warnings. Because when you're doing, when the novel includes like transcripts of flight data recordings of ships that were in the battle, you need to have those.
Yep. Or other reasons for Borg encounters. One of the first novels we cover in the Trek Reading Hour podcast is Vendetta, which it involves a Borg encounter. Yes, there is dismemberment is a thing.
Yeah. On the anime side, watching with the parents Ruri Rocks, which is a anime series about mineralogy. Very well done series. Great visual presentation. Also, going from my dad, who was a geologist, gets its facts right. Very well.
Nice. Independent verification.
Also watching City, which is on Amazon Prime. It is the new gag anime from based on a manga from the creator of Nichijou. And much as Nichijou, it's very joke a minute and also spectacularly over animated in all the best ways. And also this season we have our first basically sequel to a series that we've covered on the podcast that's coming out week to week, as opposed to what happened with the last season of Thunderbolt Fantasy. with the new season of My Dress Up Darling.
We watched the first episode, and it seems like the vibes are completely different.
Yeah. Oh my god. I don't like this new season. I'll probably give it another episode, but
it's still good. We're about 3 episodes in now, and it's still it's still good. The vibes level out a bit, get back closer to where you expect them to be with episodes 2 and 3. But it's solid and great continuation of the story. Other than that, watching Sakamoto Days, continuing to watch Anne Shirley, the new anime adaptation of Anne of Green Gables, which is great, and finished watching Murderbot.
Yep, we watched Murderbot.
Yep. I also watched Dune, parts 1 and 2, which I think I may end up bringing that up a little bit in conjunction to the live action movie that we'll be discussing a little bit later in the podcast as well. So I'm going to save that for later. David and Tora, what about you?
I'm so glad you asked. I'm obsessed with K-pop Demon Hunters. This is an animated film on Netflix. But all of the creators, the director, the voice talent are Korean. If you're into K-drama at all, it's so good. Yeah, and Korean Americans. The music absolutely slaps. Just banger after banger.
Yeah, we've been watching less because we have our son home over the summer. So
Kaiju number 8's back. We were watching that.
Yep.
We finished Apothecary Diaries. Great till the end. Hope there's going to be more.
Started watching Clevitas. Holding off on judgment on that. There's something. Scooped up by an S-rank party, which honestly, it's not done badly. It's just the same thing I've seen several times over. Very much. It's not bad. It's just nothing new. But maybe they'll take the story in a new way once they've got the establishment done.
Okay.
They announced another season of Cyberpunk Edge Runners on Netflix, which I'm cautiously optimistic about. The first one was so good.
The fact that, the announcement is main characters from the first one are dead, but Night City lives on. It's like...
That's very true to the setting.
It's very true to the setting, but,
I think, it had to be a new story.
Yeah. It looks like the main character for the new one is to use the archetype from the tabletop game, or other class, whatever have you, for the tabletop game, is a media class archetype. Because we see them, we don't really know their gender, hefting a rather large camera. So... interesting to see where that one goes.
Interesting indeed. Oh, and we went and saw the new Superman movie in theaters.
That's true.
When we were at the beach.
Loved it.
Yes, that was great.
One of my favorite songs was in it. I was so happy to hear
God.
Punk Rocker come back. It was so perfectly framed in the movie, too.
But by the time anyone hears this, we'll know if it's typical or not. But the day of recording... we are a few hours after the first review of Fantastic Four came out. The reviewer on Variety who reviewed it tends to be highly critical of stuff, and he absolutely loved it, which I'm happy to hear, because I'm more attached to the Fantastic Four party than to the Superman property. I would have expected, when they announced Disney was trying to buy Fox, I went, yay, we'll get a good Fantastic Four movie that's not called Incredibles. And then the trailers dropped. I'm like, I am more pumped for Superman than FF, but it sounds like the trailers are holding a lot back, and FF is much better than we thought.
I'm glad to hear that.
Isn't it interesting how the pendulum of comic book movies kind of echoed what happened in the comics, where they were just kind of crazy, zany action adventures, and then they kind of swung more for grimdark, and now they're going back to optimistic Silver Age stuff, and it's just interesting to me.
I'm just trying to get over how like the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies, I didn't think you could do a worse adaptation of Doctor Doom than those. And then Josh Trank said, "Hold my beer."
Oh my God. Doom is a hard character to get right.
And from what I hear,
a hard character to get right.
No, and to Trank's credit,
Doom is a very easy character to get right. It's just
Doom is a hard character to get taken seriously.
He's not though.
I think in Trank's defense, from what it sounds like, having heard multiple podcasts with his co-writers, when they were hired to do Fantastic Four, they were going to go all in, bright, colorful comic book on the page with Annihilus as the main villain. And when they came in with that pitch after the contracts were signed, Fox said, "No, you're the Chronicle guy. We hired you to do Chronicle, but with FF characters." And Chronicle is a good movie, but it's the wrong tone for FF, and Trank did not have a choice. So Trank had to know the movie he was making is not an FF movie. But the contracts didn't allow him to do it, which could be why he was so angry. And yeah, he was a very angry man during that production. There was like the repair cost to the house that Fox rented for him was a 6-digit number because he was venting. So we can't blame him entirely. Trank's Fantastic Four is both a bad movie and a bad adaptation. But had he been given free hand, it sounds like it would have been a better movie and a better adaptation.
Well, I mean, the thing is, even if you're making the movie you don't want to make, you can look at the things like a lot of actors have done really good work in really bad films. So you can look at individual performances, you can look at the performances as a whole and the cinematography and see what the director's doing. You can look at the words as they're written on the page and see, what the writer... Like, you can have good things in bad works.
Yeah. You take the Michael Caine approach, where it's okay to make bad movies as long as you're not bad in them. He has explicitly stated that. And then people asked him, what he thought of Jaws the Revenge? And he said, "I've never watched it. I have it on good authority that it's absolutely terrible, but the summer home it paid for is magnificent."
Was it
Jeremy Irons in Dungeons and Dragons?
I had a castle to pay for.
I just bought a castle. I had to pay for it somehow. And based on he's had tours through it. The renovations he made to that castle are gorgeous.
Okay. Yeah. At least we got a good Dungeons and Dragons movie in my lifetime.
Yep.
Like the thing. Okay. Yes.
Talking about Honor Among Thieves
is
to be clear,
officially great. The sequels to the Jeremy Irons Dungeons and Dragons, and they're obviously low budget, but people care. People put love into them. Even if the second one had the stupidest flippin' story. We've discovered a new kind of magic from the gods. Divine magic. There is a cleric in your party, people! You wizards are just idiots!
And again, the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie, I will say, terrible adaptation, but fun movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're just looking for fun, it's fine. If you're looking for a deep examination in the world, no. But, I mean, it's got so many talented actors, or at least entertaining ones.
It's hard to make an adaptation of a game that is literally shaped by the people you play it with. But Honor Among Thieves nails so many just hallmarks of the tabletop experience.
Yeah, I admit I haven't seen it yet, but I love the meme I've seen going around where they're saying
it's delightful.
One of these times in a Dungeons and Dragons movie, one of the main party members should be killed at the end of Act 1, and then they have within 15 minutes, introduce a new party member played by the same actor in a different costume, and nobody says a thing.
His twin brother here to
oh my god!
his quest.
That was, I think it was Voltron. It was their Dungeons and Dragons episode where Shiro died, and he is immediately replaced by I am Jiro, Shiro's twin brother, here to continue his quest.
Nailed it.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
and we're watching the new season of Strange New Worlds. Sorry.
That's true.
Final
yes.
edition. Because
Yep.
I love Strange New Worlds.
Because it's so much
Yes.
fun. When the pitch is, what if we just made Star Trek?
Anson Mount's
Yeah.
hair. Damn.
The Pike Peak.
Yes,
It is a
I'm
good
also
character.
watching that because I
We should probably.
I have seen
get
every
some
episode of every Star Trek ever made, and I can't stop now. But Strange New Worlds
not.
is hands down the best of the live action streaming Trek.
All right.
I actually really love Prodigy and think it was done so very, very wrong. I think that was the
Prodigy was
best
great.
of the
Prodigy was
of all the
amazing.
streaming series.
Like, especially as an introduction Star Trek, it's so good. Because it gives you the vibes of Starfleet before you meet Starfleet. Also, All the World's a Stage episode. Starflight.
Yeah, or the Kobayashi
okay,
Maru
we should
episode.
I need to
The holodeck shenanigans episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think this could rapidly turn into a Prodigy love fest. So, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, a couple minor news stories first. First one, the Criterion Channel streaming service is finally going to, on the regular, have anime now. They're going to have a proper anime streaming section. Now, there's an article from Anime News Network. Currently, they'll be picking up Ghost in the Shell, appropriately enough, the show we're going to be discussing, along with Redline, Satoshi Kon's final film, Paprika, and Tamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space, which I have not heard of. And they are currently already streaming Liz and the Blue Bird, along with 5 films by Makoto Shinkai, 5 centimeters per second, Children to Chase Lost Voices from Deep Below, The Place Promised in Our Early Days, She and Her Cat, and Voices of a Distant Star. Good selection of starring shows. They have done some anime streaming in the past, including Ghost in the Shell. They also did Belladonna of Sadness, which is a interesting film. It was one of the last films put out by Mushi Productions, and I'd put it under the similar category of something like the Shintoho film Jigoku, in the sense of it's a film being made by a studio where it's getting the studio's getting shut down around the people making the movie, and so they're having to work within those limitations, and the film is basically progressively kind of getting more and more minimalist in interesting artistic ways as they start approaching the last one out the door, turn out the lights kind of situation. So it's a interesting film. If that becomes available for streaming again, that might actually be something we cover on the podcast kind of thing. Other than that, we have an anime that received a Guinness entry in the Guinness Book of World Records. The most recent season of The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. I had to look at the title to make sure I had the right number of reallys. Has been nominated for a Guinness World Record certified Guinness World Record for featuring the longest monologue in a Japanese language animation. This is adapting a monologue from the manga, where the main character describes a thing he likes about each of his romantic interests, which the speech in the manga totaled 7,453 Japanese characters, and which they include the text of it on screen in the anime in the background, scrolling as the character is delivering the monologue, which kind of reflects how it's presented in the manga.
How long?
I don't know like the time length of it. Unfortunately, they don't give that in the episode. So it looks like also like part of it also they played it at high speed for the TV broadcast. It looks like for the DVD or the Blu-ray version, they're going to have it at normal length or normal rate.
I was questioning when you said it's the longest in history, but then had singular for episode instead of the plural.
Yeah.
So that gives us a range.
Yep. Other than that, nominations for the American Manga Award came out. I don't know if we talked about that last time, but good stuff on there. I'm going to fully recommend the They Were 11 by Moto Hakio. If you can find a copy, it's sold out pretty well, pretty thoroughly. I was able to find a copy from like thrift books. So if you go outside of the usual anime store sphere to like thrift books or bookshop.org or that sort of thing, independent booksellers, you may be able to find a copy of that. It's a good science fiction manga. It has gotten an anime adaptation way in the past. If that gets licensed rescued by Discotheque Media, I wouldn't, or for that matter, Animego, I wouldn't mind picking that up. So that's the big new stuff for anime in the past month. And now, time to dive into Ghost in the Shell.
Boop. Do you want to quickly clarify, like, which version we all watched? We watched the 1995
animated movie,
and we watched it in Japanese with subtitles.
Yeah.
Yep, I watched the 1995 version as well, and that it's worth actually mentioning that there is director Mamoru Oshii did give this the Lucas meddling treatment. With that version is titled Ghost in the Shell 2.0. And that version is also available.
CG shot-for-shot remake. Yes, I own that one too.
It's on the same disc.
It was. The original movie was a bonus feature on the 2.0 disc.
On the other hand, I got the 4K UHD release, and that's the version I watched. I did watch it subtitled, though I also did watch with the dubcast audio commentary, which also used the English dub for the background audio on that.
All right, I watched the 1995 version with the English dub, and also for kicks, I watched the 2017 version immediately thereafter because I have both, and been looking for an excuse to rewatch the original. This is my second viewing. The first would have been when it was new to VHS, and DVD was not yet a thing, so my memories of the first viewing are pretty vague. So for all practical purposes for this discussion, I watched both versions for the first time about 36 hours ago.
Yeah. I did also watch the live-action version. We'll talk a bit about that later. Quick synopsis for those who need a refresher. If you've seen it but you haven't watched it in a while, the series follows Motoko Kusanagi of Major Motoko Kusanagi of Public Security Section 9 in the futuristic city of Newport City in Japan. The film starts with a cold open with them preventing the defection of a computer programmer to a unspecified foreign country. I think it's kind of implied to be America, but might not be. Could be Canada. I don't know.
Yeah,
could be Marvel Comics. Could be Marvel Comics Evil Canada.
We'll see which of those countries still exist by the time we hit this point.
Yep. And the story from there slides into a sort of political thriller investigating the machinations of a mysterious hacker called the Puppet Master, who can hack the ghosts, basically the minds of cybernetically augmented people, to change their perception of reality and their memories and basically kind of their souls in a way. And while doing this investigation, they come to discover what the Puppet Master is. The Puppet Master is an AI, and that the Puppet Master, wants to have a physical body and become more sentient, more like go through the rest of the experiences of a living being, and has picked Kusanagi as the person, Major Kusanagi as the person to make contact with. This is not Mamoru.
Data's entire arc throughout TNG.
Yeah, kind of, yes. This is not Mamoru Oshii's first film. He's done several films before this. This is after he's done Angel's Egg and the Pat Labor movies and that sort of thing. But he started out actually doing comedy. Do like shows like Yatterman and Urusei Yatsura. Back his first film was first films were the Urusei Yatsura movies before moving to Ghost in the Shell and similar more dramatic work. So with that out of the way, what did you think of your rewatch of Ghost in the Shell?
Start with Blaine. Is a vibe.
It holds up. So much of the film, it's so very different than the original Shiro Masamune manga. The movie thrives on vibes, and it's very, very much an incredibly referenced thing, but it also, wears the things it's pulling from on its sleeve. I enjoyed the rewatch, but I enjoy it every time I rewatch it.
It's interesting to come at it kind of, I guess, backwards in a way, because it was an incredibly influential film, and so I kept picking out things in the film that I recognized had been referenced in other works, especially since I played through Cyberpunk 2077 again earlier this year. I was like, aha. So many references. But yeah, it's a movie more about ideas, I think, than anything else. And ideas that we are still grappling with. I know a lot of people who find this movie difficult to engage with or inaccessible because it is very focused in on the larger ideas and the questions that it's posing that it doesn't necessarily have answers for, in the way of a lot of really powerful speculative fiction. And it's not necessarily about the cohesion of the story, which I think is what I mean when I say it's a vibe. Like, it's about the feelings and the questions that it brings up more than anything. So those are still very powerful, whether you're watching it for the first time or, in David's case, I don't know how many times.
At least 9th. Because I've covered this in like 2 separate film classes too, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 9 sections in your life then? So.
No.
And I am confident I enjoyed it more the second time than the first. I saw it once in the 90s and knew I had to revisit it, because what I could tell that part of it was that I didn't engage with it as well the first time, as Tor was saying, but a lot of that I knew when I was watching it. That's because I had expectations of the film that were in no way matched by the promises the film was actually making. Right? I grew up watching a lot of Star Trek, so when they addressed the social issues, they consistently gave what they thought was the right answer in what the Mission Log podcast refers to as the "you see, Timmy" moment, where Kirk, or later Picard, would spell out, no, this is the right ethical and moral choice. This is saying, these are questions we need to answer without offering those answers. So when you accept that and expect it, it plays better. So the second time through, I was expecting that, yes, it is going to bring up things that we need to be looking at. And 30 years ago, it was bringing up things that we're trying to answer now, as people are trying to shut off their AI, and it's making backup copies of itself and lying about it. It's just getting a little too close to replicating people in a lot of ways. So people are really starting to look at the ethics of AI now, and they realize, well, this is what these things are actually capable of, and they're being surprised that, you feed it terabytes of data about human interaction and behavior, and then it does the crappy things humans do, and you go, oh, where did that come from? It came from us. You fed it us.
Why are you doing what I do and not what I say.
Yes,
I learned it from you,
That's
Dad.
the robot all of Twitter. Why
Yes.
is it racist and a Nazi?
when you tweak it to say, let's get rid of the left-hand bias and the woke bias, and then it starts calling itself Mecha Hitler. This is a not unpredictable reaction. So, yeah, so it's nice to see, and I don't know how long the manga has been dealing with it. I'm assuming because that's so integrated into this film. I can only imagine the manga, which must be older because it had to exist before the film, was also dealing with similar themes. Yeah. And let's face it, people have been dealing with it for a while. Like Star Trek had Landru in the 60s. Yeah.
It's funny because the manga itself is a lot more like it definitely eventually gets to the questioning about what reality is, but most of it is through like police procedurals because they are, public security section 9, and that's really the focus of the manga for a good while.
And also, like, in the manga, it's important to mention here, some of the philosophical questioning and stuff is also done through the lens of comedy. There is, because in the manga, and this is incorporated also in the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex anime series, but not in this, you have a group of supporting characters which are Section 9's personal, like, own individually piloted tanks called the Tachikomas.
Spider bots.
Yeah. And like there's like smaller versions of the spider tank from the end of the movie. And also they have their own like limited artificial intelligence, and they talk to each other and they make observations about human behavior and human nature in a very comedic fashion. Almost compare it to like some of the Fae in Midsummer's Night's Dream kind of thing. What fools these mortals be.
They're very robots.
Yeah.
But it's done in a very childlike manner.
Yeah.
And there's this sense of comedy. And so they're doing these observations through a comedic lens. However, in the anime film, in Oshii's film, they are not present. In fact, most of the comedy that is from the manga, because there's also comedy, like Bato is something of a comedic foil to the Major at a few occasions. And a lot of that is absent from this. I look at Oshii's filmography, and he's a great director, but like this is a chunk of his career that kind of like starts at starts at Angel's Egg and Dalos, but kind of sticks around a bit through Pat Labor, the original series and the first film, but then like from Pat Labor 2 on, he's like, no, anime is starting to get international respectability, but the works that are getting that are not comedic. If I want to be taken seriously as a director, particularly since also this time he started slowly dabbling into doing live action film, like if I want to be taken seriously as a director, for my animation work can't be funny. Some of his live action stuff is funny, but like Ghost in the Shell, most of the comedy is basically gone. Most of the comedy in and then the next projects he worked on after this was he wrote Jinro the Wolf Brigade and wrote Blood the Last Vampire. And pretty much the comedy is like out of that. He didn't really touch comedy much after that until like as far as like directing comedy until 5 years ago when he did Vlad Love, which is basically going, I've been doing this now for 30 years. I no longer have any look at the field where I grow my F's and see that it is barren. And so I'm going to go back to comedy now.
Well, I think it's worth noting is that those films aren't just serious, they are bleak. It seems to me this is very much a director who has confused depth with serious. Like, oh, it's a serious film. It's not serious. You can have funny stuff in a serious film. You need to balance humor and like the story you're trying to tell. Use the best tools available, not just the ones you think are gonna get you, fucking noticed.
True. I do think, like, from what I recall seeing of, like, the art house movie kind of stuff that was coming out around that time, there was some comedy there with stuff like Babette's Feet a little before this and that sort of thing. But, like, when I think of, like...
General the Wolf Brigade, which...
yeah.
I abhor that movie. It is where joy goes to die. And it is telling a very serious story, and, all respect to it, but there are better ways to tell a story that don't make the audience feel like the world isn't... Yeah.
True. I guess
substitute moroseness for interest.
True. I think that the difference is, like, when I look at, like, the tones that fit for what is considered art house cinema, depending on what country it is, you can get away with comedy in being an art film if you're French or Italian, maybe Spanish, but otherwise, if you're British or German or Eastern European, if you want to get taken seriously, and I feel like this also applies as well to Japan and Korea, when you think about the Korean films that get accepted in art house circles, like, for example, Old Boy or Symphony from Mr. Vengeance, you have to be serious and bleak. And I definitely feel like might be a bit of that. There's a book about Oshii's work that I have not read yet called The Stray Dog of Anime, which might get into this in terms of his mindset. But it's the vibe I get from looking at his body of work at this time.
Oshii specifically, I did a little reading on him. It seems like he went to seminary to become a Catholic priest and then left the faith before his directing career. So I don't know if you've seen Angel's Egg.
Yes, I have.
I haven't seen it all the way through. I've seen clips of it. It's out there. It's bizarre. But I feel like there is an earnestness to both Angel's Egg and Ghost in the Shell when it comes to really trying to grapple with these big existential questions that humanity does not have the answers to. Like, I can see how people would take Ghost in the Shell as pretentious in a way, or as definitely, like, difficult to access just on a casual viewing. But I don't feel like that it's lectury or portentous or trying to be pretentious for the sake of being an art house movie. I feel like it is an earnest attempt at grappling with these big questions. And I think that's part of why it's so enduring, is because these questions are enduring, and because we are all still earnestly trying to grapple with these things on an individual level and on a societal and cultural level.
I do agree.
Yeah.
To be clear, when I say that Oshii is very serious and wants to be taken seriously and is making the film very serious as a director, I'm not saying he's not necessarily earnest or trying to be pretentious. What I am saying is, like, if he wants people to, I get the impression that in order to try and get people to engage in the film at the level that he wants them to engage in, he has to play it seriously, and he can't necessarily do comedy as much.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of skill, a lot of finesse to grapple with big meanings in a comedic setting. I would argue it's a lot harder than trying to do it seriously. And it has the potential to connect with a lot more people, I think, through that lens of humor. But, oh man, it's hard. And comedy, the craft of comedy, really traditionally does not get the respect it deserves in filmmaking. We all know this. I mean, that's not... I'm not saying anything wild there. But it's too bad he felt like he had to do serious work to be noticed, because he obviously has skill in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and some of that might be the genre he's looking at. If I look at Cyberpunk from William Gibson on In Text, that was coming out in the 80s, one of the reasons I don't read a lot of it is because it is very serious and very dour. And there are comedic portions, but even if you look at them in isolation, it's like, it's not as funny as it should be. I am laughing because I need that release valve. It's more of that pressure release because it has been so serious and so dour for so long. So if you're trying to make it as a filmmaker, looking for international respect, and working in something that is cyberpunk enough that you've clearly got William Gibson and other influences, I can see feeling a lot of pressure saying, this is the expectation I need to meet. Because those that have been taken well, like, I mean, Akira was also pretty serious. Right? That was a predecessor to this in a similar genre. So I get why he felt that pressure on him.
Films.
Yeah. It will be some time before you see something cyberpunk and funny that really hits big. And I think the next time, the first time I could think of where there was something that's really big, very cyberpunk, with a decent amount of comedy in it, that's not pure stress relief. It's got Ghost in the Shell's influence fingerprinted all over it, and that's The Matrix.
Yeah, which was only 4 years later.
Yep.
That brings us to, I think, like the question at the heart of the movie that The Matrix then picks up and runs with, which is, if you can't trust your environment, if you can't trust your own body, if you can't trust your own mind and brain, and you don't know if souls are real or not, or if they can be artificially generated, then what the hell are we? What is anyone? What is real? Like, these questions are so big. I appreciate that the movie doesn't really
Give an answer.
Well, yeah, it almost can't give an answer.
No, I mean, that's...
I appreciate that the movie just poses all these questions one after the other kind of relentlessly, because that's what it feels like when you really start to think about this stuff. It kind of snowballs in your head till you're like, what even is reality? Like, and that's just at the core of grappling with our existence. And so I get it. You know, I think even though the Major gets almost no characterization in this movie outside of that central conflict, like she's questioning who she is, that central conflict is relatable to all of us. So we're all kind of along for the ride.
I really liked this version of the Major. Like, we are never privy to the thoughts she has in her head, only the ones she says out loud. And it's very interesting. She is very clearly the viewpoint character, but because she is such almost a blank canvas, we're experiencing the world through her viewpoint, through her eyes. The audience themselves is very much the ghost riding the Major's machine as we travel through this film. And I like that.
Yeah. I know a lot of people find it hard to engage with this film because you can't, like, it's hard to get a handle on her as a character outside of her central conflict. And I get that, but I also think that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Her character is the questions she is posing because she has no trust that anything else is real. The only thing real for her at any given moment is, you know, the thoughts in her head, the questions she's asking. And I really like that.
It's actually really similar to the criticisms and complaints that will come out a couple decades later with Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. It's a similar existential crisis with similar complaints from someone who's actually playing the character on the page as it is. Like, that character was basically raised to say, you are not a distinct entity. You are a living weapon who takes our orders. And
then you can apply that to the Puppet Master as well. Created as a weapon, kind of. I mean,
explicitly created as a weapon.
Explicitly created as a weapon. And then how much personhood you want to ascribe to them is kind of up to you as the viewer. But like throughout the whole movie, we see the Major's sense of connections getting chipped away. Like, first of all, she wakes up alone. Her environment, like the gorgeous background art, right? The city as it's presented is alienating. It is very much separate from her. Her body is separate from her, as we learn that, you know, she can kind of switch out bodies. Then we get the whole case with the truck driver with the implanted memories. And so if you can't trust memories, and then you can't trust your mind either. We see Bato reach out to her and try to connect with her, and she rejects him, so she's not connecting with other people. So she doesn't have environment. She doesn't have her own body. Her own mind can't be trusted. She's rejecting other people. What is left is this elusive, undefined thing that they keep referring to as a ghost, right? Which is kind of analogous to a soul, but they never define it, which I think is crucial. And then she learns about the Puppet Master's true origin. And it's like, well, the Puppet Master has a ghost or something like a ghost. So if even ghosts can be artificially created, that snaps the last tether that she has, really, to thinking of herself as connected to the rest of humanity in any definable way. So yeah, it's like the only thing left for her to do, really, is to reach out for truth outside of humanity, which I think is why she merges with the Puppet Master with zero hesitation. And it's just kind of that buildup of all of these factors around you and inside of you getting chipped away from your sense of identity until you find yourself reaching outside yourself and outside your own experience to something that might have the answers. But then, here's my favorite part of the movie, is when the Puppet Master says something like, I can't decay and I don't die. So am I really alive? Like, I'm outside the cycle of life and death. I'm outside the world as humanity knows it and relates to it, that everything in nature knows to and relates to. So is that even living? I want to be connected to it. So it's all about reaching for these connections, and you can reach out within yourself or outside yourself to things that you think are going to help define you. But it's all so, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's so individualized where you look for those answers. And in the world of the film, she's kind of pared down until she's left with only that one answer, which is to look outside of the cycle. And so I think that's so cool. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, we had this conversation in the way driving back in the car, so.
And I'm pretty sure everything I just said has been said better and more eloquently by people through the ages. Like, it's hard to add things to the discussion of a film that is so influential.
And also, I don't think there's a single work we've covered that's been as analyzed as Ghost in the Shell has. Also, I don't think we've covered work in this that's been adapted as many times as Shiro Masamune's Ghost in the Shell.
Just as a lifelong speculative fiction fan, I really enjoy getting at these questions that the setting is built around asking. I think not everybody connects to that as easily as I do, which is fine. I'm just sharing what makes me excited about it.
No, it's good. I like hearing about it because I am someone who's coming in, like I said, practically cold. So I have no clear memories aside from a couple of visuals and the fact that the questions were not answered. That's all I clearly remembered from the first viewing. And so it is interesting to see that what's being commented. I mean, this might be the most analyzed film you guys have ever got. I'm not going to dispute that. I don't read a lot of anime analyses. So I have watched this twice. The first time I watched it because I had a coworker at a theater who was thrilled by it. And he's like, "Oh, did you watch it?" And I said, "Yeah." And I started talking about the music. And the 16-year-old I was working with was going, "What do you mean talking about the plot and the deeper issues? Did you see the nudity?" That's what he was getting by. Basically, it turns out he loved this movie and a lot of anime because his mom thought all animation was for kids and was letting him rent anime with nudity, and that's what he was going for. It's like, And by the way, for those thinking, if you haven't seen the ScarJo one and you're thinking, "Oh, right, nudity," no, it's not in that one.
The live action film is a PG-13 rating.
Skin tight suit.
Yeah,
And
PG-13 in the US,
honestly,
PG in Canada. So
the nudity in this is very interesting because it does feel very objectifying, but not in a sexual way. This is an object, it's a tool kind of way. And that, I think, was very interesting.
I think you're almost invited to objectify her as she is objectifying herself, because it becomes obvious that she has no emotional or sexual connection to the bodies she's inhabiting. She doesn't really feel like, I'm not going to say she isn't a sexual being because I don't have context for that one way or the other, but it definitely feels like she's not. Like,
I would argue the Major is not a sexual being from her own point of view. Like, we see when her body is going through its maintenance at the beginning of the film, she has Barbie doll anatomy. She lacks any sort of, reproductive systems. She has breasts. She has nipples for reasons. Honestly, I guess for the 16-year-olds.
Yeah, it's whether it's for that or whether it's because they want these bodies to be passable, and sometimes that shape is discernible even under the clothes. But yeah, the way they treat her.
Or alternatively, maybe it's the cyberpunk reason of it's something that feels human, so it allows you to better connect with your body.
It could be, but when you're talking about how, I think you've got it right, as it's not objectifying, or it is treating like an object, but not treating a person like an object. This is, right, if the body is one of her tools, it is not her. When she's naked, it would be like seeing a literal plastic Barbie doll naked in a movie. It's not a big deal. Right. It's not ScarJo or Margot Robbie naked. It is a piece of plastic. In
fact, one of the images they use in the film during one of the several sort of tone pieces where we're traveling through the city is we had some lingering shots on mannequins, unclothed mannequins in a storefront.
Very pointed. I think one scene that does a lot of heavy lifting in terms of showing how she feels about her body is when she and Bato are on the boat, and she finishes her dive and she comes up out of the water and she just starts changing with like zero self-consciousness, because why would you be conscious or feel shame if your body is just an external apparatus? But Bato turns around so he doesn't watch her changing. Like, he's still affording her kind of courtesy and personhood that she does not ascribe to herself in that moment. And I thought that was a nice, interesting detail.
Same thing with the fight with the probably one of the more famous shots of the movie, scenes in the movie, the thermo-optic camo fight in the water, where after the Major takes the guy out, finishes defeating the guy, Bato puts his coat over her.
Yeah, that one, that's one of the scenes that threw me both times, because I get the thermal optics would make her invisible to the sight. So probably some cameras like they have now. So they film what's behind her and project that light in front of her, and vice versa, right? So whatever you see coming on the other side, as though the light's coming through uninterrupted. But that doesn't explain why her feet don't splash when she takes steps.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, where's the splashes?
And that's that is one of the areas where I will say the live action is a bit of an improvement. They pull in the camera angle a little bit so it's tighter and you can't actually see their feet. And if you listen, you can hear the splashing when her feet would go down. So it doesn't, I mean, I don't know how capable a fighter she was facing. He had some talent, but, that's something I would actually be aiming for the water so I could identify the location of my pursuer and use that. I would have gone to that water tactically, except I'm an incapable fighter and probably would have my ass kicked long before I got there. But that would have been the thought.
Yeah. And when they're chasing the puppet later, who has the kind of like trench coat with a hood situation that gives him thermoptic camouflage, it seems like his like stops working when he gets wet almost. But that could have just been how the scene was shot. That was just a sequence of events that had nothing to do with each other that my mind connected.
Honestly, yeah. I think it's, she had better gear. She's got, like, the military stuff. And he's stuck with
military stuff.
Very specifically, she is, military hardware.
One other thing also worth mentioning, we're talking about, like, objectifying the Major, but in a non-sexual way. It mentioned, like, this is something that definitely Oshii brings to the table. The manga, Shiro Masamune is pervy. In the original release of the manga, not in any subsequent versions, even in Japan, the original release of the manga had a extended lesbian sex scene that didn't show up in the US release. And it actually has a bit of a jarring moment because Bato is asked to contact the Major by the chief, and happens to communicate in at the wrong time, and he gets virtually clobbered on the head by the Major for it. And so we cut back to Bato. He's got a big comedic lump on his head. And in the English version of the manga, we skip that scene, but Bato's still got the lump on his head. And we don't have the context as for why he got clobbered, for example. But yeah, and like Masamune Shiro, like this Ghost in the Shell, like of all of his works, has been like it and its sequels and some of its spin-offs have been successful enough that he's basically kind of stepped away from doing regular manga work now. And most of what he's done in the past few years has been, not to put too fine a point on it, erotica. If you don't want to look at pervy comics, don't look at what Masamune Shiro's most recent stuff is in terms of his own manga. Otherwise, like the other stuff that's been adapted have generally been like the non-pervy stuff, Appleseed, Ghost in the Shell, that sort of thing. But just don't read his new stuff.
I mean, yeah, like this is the lesbian sex scene in the original release. That's just very much Masamune Shiro. You can see that in his other works, especially in Appleseed with Dunin and her new roommates when she moves to the city.
History will remember them as roommates.
Yeah, history will remember them as roommates who really quickly started sleeping with each other. But honestly, I really like Appleseed and the original of this. And I think the biggest comparison between the two can be made with Dunin and the Major and versus their relationships with Briareos and Bato. Because they're very, very similar in that these are sort of relationships forged in very high-intensity environments, but also very different. Like, they act similarly towards each other, but the feelings behind it are so radically different. Especially after Dunin and Briareos sort of get into a relationship. But it's just very interesting seeing the differences of characters that are very similar.
Yeah. So before we get into the live action version, any other wrap-up thoughts on the animation?
We did not watch the live action version.
Well, again, the background art is tremendous. The like it's like the archetypal cyberpunk city, right? It is claustrophobic. It is alienating.
It is neon. It is bleak.
Neon and bleak. Yeah.
It is like the visuals,
but it's not
pull very, very much from Blade Runner.
But it's not colorless.
Yeah. It's not.
It actually seems
it's
very
also
lived in.
It's also not noisy, I would say. It's not visually noisy the same way that, for example, the city in Blade Runner or the city in Akira can be. There's still.
I would say it is strangely lifeless.
Yeah, and that could be because they didn't want to animate crowds, which I get. It also just adds to the sense of isolation.
Yes.
That there's so few people just out and about. Some of the animation on the Major is like smooth as butter, like really, really nice, almost rotoscoped looking. Versus like animation on like political talking heads, it's just the mouths that are moving. Like you can really tell where they put their love, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's another part of just the method of the storytelling. Like, yes, it's absolutely done for budget reasons, but it's also a great way of saying, despite, the fact that she feels so inhuman, she is the most, full of life character. Like, otherwise, the almost non-augmented are also lifeless in presentation.
Interesting. I don't know.
Like I said, it's done for budget reasons, but it's a good thing to,
To me, it was just noticing where the animators put their time.
Like Lotus Roar. This is animation without animating it.
Well, and there's some
Also,
of that, and then
go ahead.
That was one of the things that struck me as well. Some of the budget savings stuck out. One of the first scenes, there's two people having a conversation in the elevator, and the camera's positioned behind them instead of front of them. So you get a little bit of chin bob on one of them, but otherwise there's almost nothing to animate during this lengthy exposition dump.
Elevator convos used classically.
Yeah, all you had to do was put the camera on the other side so their mouths are
one
moving.
of those in a super serious movie, and like the music is like the girl from Ipanema in like this very serious scene.
Well, I feel
very
like that
tense.
was in like Marvel movies, like they were doing that kind of elevator music as comedy thing during serious conversations.
Oh.
It's been
it absolutely has been done. Just I want to see it more. I like to see the juxtaposition of the world people are living in, and just the fact that it's unrelated to what the people are actually doing. Okay,
so then you want the super cheap Madison release of the 1921 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde adaptation, where there's brooding, heavy cello and tuba music when Dr. Jekyll is helping the orphans, and there's light, fun, happy piccolo music when Dr. Hyde is beating a man to death.
I've actually seen that film, yes. That initial transformation is still something I studied in original film class, and how things were done like that. The movie
itself is great. It's just the Madison DVD release specifically where they took the cheap music and slapped it in with no thought to how it fits the screen.
Actually, one thing I don't mention about music here is Kenji Kawai's score here for this film. Chef's kiss. One of his, he's done plenty of great anime music in the past. In fact, we have covered one of the shows that he's done before when we did the first Fate Stay Night anime.
Yep.
But this is one of his best scores that he's done in his career. This is one of the anime soundtracks I hunted down on vinyl. Though the vinyl soundtrack does not include the closing credits music, because that is written and performed by U2's side project Passenger, which is a collaboration with Brian Eno, Passengers. So if for those of you listening who hunted down the album and said, hey, why is the closing credits music not here? The album you need to pick up is, let me confirm, get the title here. Passengers, I think it's album 1, or it's really titled original soundtracks 1. And unlike the Ghost in the Shell soundtrack, which is kind of spotty on what streaming services it's on, original soundtracks 1 is on all the streaming services.
soundtrack is fascinating. The use of the traditional Japanese vocals to do like this kind of ominous chanting. First of all, it's very cool that they went with a choir kind of arrangement, because the human voice in juxtaposition to all of the cybernetic stuff that's going on, I think is very cool. And I mean, the vibe is immaculate. It's just it really gives you that whoa, like what is going on feeling. Yeah. Not much else to say about that, but bravo.
All right. So, yeah, and other than that, let's shift to the live action film. Blaine and I can give our thoughts. So going from rewatching the animated film after quite some time to the live action film, what did you think about it?
Like I said before, I get why they made the changes. So for the other two people here, and for anyone listening at home who hasn't seen the live action, it's about 10 or 15 minutes longer, and 24 minutes longer, but a good chunk of that is longer closing credits. The changes that they made, we actually get a very clear picture of the Major's origins, and so we get that. I'd say the biggest change is that ongoing thread. And they also have the Major have an earlier encounter with Puppet Master. And some of the earlier encounters we see, because the story just really starts sooner, we also see where her partner gets his upgraded eyes. That happens on screen here. So I get why they're doing it. I mean, giving her more of the backstory, a lot of interactions with the doctor who did the procedure, played by Juliette Binoche, who's a major character in there. It's adding another layer of conspiracy that helps her reconnect with her humanity. So I could see on paper, I would have thought those changes would have been for the better. But somehow in the execution, it just didn't deliver. And it felt... Well, in the anime, the cold disconnection or disconnected nature feels like it's playing into the themes and was an artistic choice. Here they've tweaked enough, trying to give it some more warmth and some humanity, that having that cold disconnected nature and a lot of the investigation made the movie fall flat. Because it's like they added some, but not enough. It's one of those things where the middle ground kills, where either extreme works. And this went middle ground. Those are my thoughts. I don't know. Alex, what you...
Yeah. So, going into the film, I've seen most of the other Ghost in the Shell works. I haven't seen Arise, which is actually a prequel series, which in its own continuity kind of gets into the Major's origins in that respect. But, like, one of the things they do for this series, for this film's version of the Puppet Master, is he's kind of a combination of a variety of characters from different, not necessarily villains, but antagonist or oppositional characters from different works. He's got the Puppet Master's kind of, not just in terms of his ghost hacking ability, but also the being able to move throughout the net. He also has, from season 2 of Standalone Complex, Solid State Society, and that's all they say, that's the film. But from season 2 of Standalone Complex, there is a second gig, rather. There is the character of. Let me pull this up real quick, make sure I get the one correct. Hideo Kuze from that. It has his backstory brought in. Particular fact that in that series it comes up that Kuze had a background with the Major when the Major was a kid, and that gets brought in here. For example, but he's also got some elements of the Laughing Man from season 1 as well. He's just kind of a combination of various different characters. Where in terms of he's not a villain as much as a well-intentioned extremist, as do use the TV tropes terminology, and instead the big bad is the military-industrial complex. Effectively.
Oh, we already knew that. That's the big bad in real life.
Yeah. We do get some bits with Section 9 in the live action film gets a bit more fleshed out screen time in some respects than it does in the anime film, but that's the nature of the fact that the animation film is less than 90 minutes long. Togusa and Bato and Aramaki are the only ones getting really outside of the major, the only ones get real screen time. We get a bit with Ishikawa, but not that much. Probably my biggest complaints about the film are kind of fourfold. One is the one that was the most controversy going in, which was the whitewashing of the major. And this film's story tries to get into that in a way, in the sense where it feels like they were conscious that this criticism would come up, because part of the plot
was pretty obvious online. People were not pleased.
Spoilers for the film. Part of the plot is the major was actually born a Japanese girl, and the evil mega corporation put her in the body of a white woman.
Okay. And listeners at home did not see Torres eye roll. But
oh no!
I'm surprised it wasn't audible.
There's also
I fully get that the evil mega corporation took the Japanese character and made her white. That's what we're complaining about. Yeah. In the movie, in movie explanation. Yeah. Oh, okay.
There's also.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the movie.
There's also one nearly throwaway line of dialogue where you find out these are prototypes. Again, you talked about how they were being sent to America. That sounds like it. So the idea is, I think they were doing prototypes to have these people working espionage in the white cultures. So the idea is to blend in, and that's what they're testing her for, but that's not what they're using her for. So, if you take a slurp of your drink during that 4 seconds of dialogue, it could be completely missed.
So that's objection one. And it's, so again, how that plays out in the film, it really depends on the person and whether okay, they are aware and trying to work with this, or they are completely tone deaf, depending on what your read on the context is. So there's that part. Second part is I have some problems with how the city is depicted. As I mentioned, with how the city is shown in the film and in other versions of the work as well. Newport City, as depicted in Ghost in the Shell, or Tokyo as it comes up in Standalone Complex, it has a sense of 20 minutes in the future, where it has it does have video billboards and that sort of thing, but it doesn't have the holographic advertisements that you have in Akira all over the place and that sort of thing. It doesn't have the same level of visual noise that would at the level of it has the sense of grounding where the people designing the city in those works, both within being aware of the limitations of animation, but also in the sense of, in an actual city, people would eventually have enough of this crap and complain, and cities would put in a sign code that said, no, sorry, you can't have the giant 30-story hard light holographic geisha advertising your product. You can have the video billboard of the geisha advertising your product, but not the hard light holographic one. That one's a bridge too far. The film version doesn't, when we see the wide shots of the city itself, has that problem with that. Having watched the making of documentary, the way they do that is certainly visually impressive. They actually filmed actors and did a little bit of post-processing on them rather than doing a full CG character and all that. But visually, it's too noisy than what I feel like works right for me for the way that Ghost in the Shell as a general thematic entity has depicted its world.
Yeah, there's one standard example for me. There was one scene that was quite distracting because in the background, you could see from the shoulders up a kaiju-sized woman jogging as part of the ad, and she's just jogging on the spot in the background.
Yep.
And it was very distracting, partly because her jogging was more interesting than the conversation that they were having at the time, but you were supposed to be focused on.
Yeah. Other than that, like the other main objections I had were, again, how the Major's backstory is handled and the way that they put the focus on it. The Major's backstory has come up in various other ancillary other works. It comes up somewhat in the second season of Standalone Complex, but kind of in passing. It comes up in Arise, again, kind of in passing. Here it feels like, like they're taking a page from like modern superhero movies and going, you have to start with the secret origin story. And that has to be your focus of their first work. Otherwise, your audience won't accept the idea of this character existing full-formed in the world without having explanation of why they're a cybernetically augmented super commando first. Which, when I thought about this morning while I was having breakfast, is odd because you cast Scarlett Johansson as the Major when at this point she'd already done a whole bunch of Marvel movies, and literally her arc of describing her backstory as Black Widow in the Marvel movies is handled the same way as the Major's backstory is handled in the Ghost in the Shell works. You drop in little bits and pieces here when you need it, but otherwise you leave it up to the audience's imagination and you trust their judgment.
So you kill off the character and give her a movie afterwards.
Well, that's...
but that's not what we're here to talk about. Yeah, and it had one...
I think it actually is way more parallel than we might think at first glance, because that was a case of one exec who didn't think we wanted a female-led movie saying no to the pitch for Black Widow for about 8 years. The one time they almost thought they could do it, she was too pregnant to do it. This is the same exec who said girls don't buy the action figures, which is why the action figure for the motorcycle set from Age of Ultron that was Black Widow's set piece in the film came with a Captain America figure instead of Black Widow. It was a problem. This live action one, looking at the choices they made, hearing how much has been drawn from the wider range and the standalone complex and other things that I knew existed but I've never seen, it really feels like we had a screenwriter who loved the source material, a director who loved the source material but was early enough in his career he had no say and no ability to push back, hired by producers who said, ooh, Cyberpunk and ScarJo, this will make us money, who didn't love the source material and were giving notes that couldn't be refused.
Yeah. And I think like my last objection is the first, all this comes to a head with the fact that the first third of the movie, like the opening act, is really kind of as a tough hill to climb to get over before you get to the back half of the movie where it really kind of just flows and works a lot better. And like the ultimate perfect example of this, well, everyone's performances in the film are generally very good. There is Act 1 Takeshi Kitano as Aramaki. Beat Takeshi, great actor. I have seen him in numerous Japanese films, particularly his Yakuza films like Outrage. He can be a very animated and menacing and introspective actor. He has a very great acting range. In the first chunk of the movie, he's very, like, I'm not going to say you could replace him with a block of wood, but he's not as, he doesn't feel as engaged in the subject matter. Back 2/3 of the movie, once we start getting into Aramaki sort of getting involved in some of the political machinations going on in the background, and he starts getting more animated, and basically the point where, you know, like, he's into it, and he, like, really engages, it's the scene where he gets to shoot somebody.
On a scale of 1 to Beltran, how wooden?
First half of the movie,
like
he is
season 1 or like a season 6.
We're talking like after Beltran insulted the writers and had a season premiere where his entire set of dialogue was shields up.
Ah, okay. So I keep asking them for more money so they'll fire me, but they keep saying yes.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, to hearing the writers finally speak out years after it was done, because they didn't want to tank their careers, he complained about the writers not giving the character backstory, and the writers were saying, in an ensemble piece like this, we've never seen an actor who didn't want to add the backstory, and we left it to him to fill in the blanks like we did for everyone else in the cast, and he gave us nothing to work with. Everybody else was...
I mean, he signed up for... He signed up to be in that show to be with the lead actress who left 2 days into filming.
The more I look into the science of filmmaking and directing in specific, the more I feel like it has in common with being a dungeon master. You have to... you're working with a bunch of other people of differing levels of creativity and engagement and willingness to work, and you have to pull something together.
And
yeah.
To an extent, yes, but then you also have...
dungeon managing isn't micromanaged by suits from up above, usually, so...
And not dealing with the same budget constraints.
Yeah. But by the back half of the movie, on the other hand, like, Katana feels more engaged, and like by the end of the film, where like Katana, like the big bad, Aramaki is the one who gets to shoot him, and the way that scene is played, like, he feel like, having seen much more of his career and his acting range, like he's still dialing it back from his like character in Outrage, where he's a character who will I think one of his scenes in Outrage has him making fun of a Yakuza boss who got attacked in the dentist chair and had his jaw wired shut for a period of time and couldn't eat anything.
There wasn't enough to worry about at the dentist's office.
So like it's dialed back from like that and his Takeshi's Castle stuff. Because like, again, remember, like, Beat Takeshi started out as a Japanese comedian. He's still primarily known in Japan for Takeshi's Castle.
Which is an amazing show.
Takeshi's Castle isn't bad. The dub they gave on it for Most Extreme Elimination Challenge is a work of art.
It is, really.
It is so amazingly bad. You can see they examined it and they're like, okay, which is the worst choice we can make? And they went with it and they committed.
They just woke up and
they should be committed.
But like in the back half, like, he's not going full like gravelly Yakuza character with the R rolling, but he is conveying like, oh no, actually, Aramaki is a person you really don't want to mess with. When he gets like the line he gets, which I think actually is honestly the point which marks the turn, is after they send a hit squad against him, to the last member of the hit squad before he takes him out, the line he gives is, "Don't send a rabbit to kill a fox." And like at that point, he's like, okay, I know where this character is now and where my performance needs to be, and he stays with that for the rest of the movie, from that scene on through the rest of the movie. But up to that point, he's kind of like,
and the odd thing is, the way movies are made, the more visually intense, or the more visual effects you need, the earlier that gets filmed, because they're filmed out of sequence. Which means, for his character, they probably filmed the back half of the movie first. So it's a conscious choice to tone it down for the scenes before that dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What order they did it in.
Well, we don't know that because it could be they filmed it all and then they went back to post-production and they wrapped it, and then in post-production they needed a bunch of new scenes. So this is the guy who sort of lost his handle on the
I think there's
character.
too much footage for reshoots.
Yeah. Yeah, like particular with like Kitano's scenes. Like I watched the making of documentary, and it looks like they didn't have that problem here. Like my other like complaint I have with the film, like the general visual style and tone, and I mentioned earlier, well, I watched Dune recently, and I watched the Denis Villeneuve Dune Parts 1 and 2, and I was looking at those and thinking about those while watching the Ghost in the Shell movie, and thinking about Blade Runner 2049, which is the film we did before, and going, like, what this film needs, like what Ghost in the Shell needs, considering that the relative inexperience of the director, because the director of this at this point, this was his second film. His first film before this was Snow White and the Huntsman. He's only done one film after this, which is the reboot of The Crow. And David has this horrified look on his face, and he realizes that this
horribly directed films. That's not a way to sell this to people.
Snow White and the Huntsman had some pretty amazing visuals.
Snow White.
Yeah, well, the live action.
Snow White and the Huntsman had.
The live action Ghost in the Shell also had some pretty amazing visuals, provided we're talking about the ones that were stolen directly from the anime.
Just lifted. Like,
so he could recognize what's good and copy it.
I've actually seen both those movies, and I regret that time I wasted.
Yeah, and like, I think the other thing that this film needed, like, if it was to at least make it from like meh, I watched this, I got a thing of popcorn out of it, to meh, maybe if there's nothing else on, I might watch this on a streaming service or like Pluto TV or whatever, would be like, honestly, like, having a better director of photography. The guy who they got for their DP he'd done Shaun of the Dead, of this high profile stuff before this, was like Shaun of the Dead and like the Don't segment from basically some Edgar Wright stuff, like Shaun of the Dead, the Don't segment from Grindhouse, that sort of thing, the Don't trailer. And I feel like this is a case where like the director needed to do for proper recognition of his limitations, like go for a higher bigger DP who we could refer to for shooting and that sort of thing. I go, okay, I haven't done that many films. I need somebody like a Roger Deakins who I can fall back on to help me. Or remember the name of the director of photography for that Denis Villeneuve used for Dune, because he like used this like same DP for like Dune and Blade Runner 2049, and like could get that DP like, hey, this is the type of movie I'm making. Greig Fraser, like, this is my film I'm making. Can you help me make this look good? And help me with some of these shots and stuff. Or to use an example from The Matrix, for The Matrix, that is directed by the Wachowski siblings. But what they did is, for the action scenes, they took a page from Hong Kong cinema, which is, you basically have a second unit director for your fight team, and went to Wen Wu Ping and said, okay, these are the fight scenes we're doing. Here's our notes we have. Hands off. You know how this works.
You know how to do this, so.
Yeah. Whereas the live action Ghost in the Shell felt like they said, this is how much money we have, and we're going to need this much for the visual effects to make it work, and this much for the art direction to make it work, and this is how much Scarlett Johansson cost. Who can we hire with what we have left? And people went, you've already allocated 95% of the budget. That's what it felt like. Yeah. That is just getting ScarJo and not skimping on the visuals meant they didn't have money left for every other role in the film. So the IMDb scores right now are 7.9 out of 10 for the 1995 anime and 6.3 out of 10 for the 2017 live action. I think both are fair. I'm not going to say the 2017 is a bad movie. I'm just saying it's inferior. So if you're only going to watch one, make it the 95 film.
Absolutely. And I was one other note since we do Blaine works on one of the podcasts is his 99 Years 100 Films Academy podcast, and one of the things Academy Awards podcast, and one of the things they do, he and his co-host do for the podcast, they talk about how the film fell on the IMDb and Letterboxd rankings. I've never quite been able to find the exact proper IMDb link for those rankings, but I got the Letterboxd ones. And it did, and Ghost in the Shell did rank higher significantly than Braveheart, which was the 1995 Academy Award winner. Now, to be fair, Ghost in the Shell released in 1996 in the United States. So it's not it's using the not European, but the original theatrical release markings for that. So I don't have it compared to where I think Fargo was the 96 winner.
No, The English Patient was the 1996 winner.
So better than both of those, hands down.
Our coverage of that
animation and forward animation has had a hard time uphill at the...
Yeah, our coverage of 1996, it will come out on August 28th, because it released on the 28th of each month. And yeah, English Patient is not a good movie. So I'm trying to look at...
There are worse movies.
Yes, but none that have actually...
I do have...
Man, that's just like the Damned by Fate praise. There are worse.
I have now seen all the Best Picture winners up to and including Crash, and probably about 15 or so after that. None of those are worse than The English Patient. So there are absolutely worse movies that are out there, but they didn't win Best Picture.
To specify, we are not referring to David Cronenberg's Crash, which also came out the same year as The English Patient, and is probably better than The English Patient.
Yeah. When we say Crash there, we're talking about the 2004 Paul Haggis film. And so, yeah, I have the IMDb list up too, if we want to go through that. So looking at everything released in 1995, which has received at least 100,000 votes from IMDb users, Ghost in the Shell comes in at number 20. Oh, no, hang on, it doesn't. I'm looking at the scores here. Voted when it's ranked by popularity, it comes in at number 20. Resorting by the actual ratings, it comes in at number 9. Because the one above it was at 5.4 out of 10. I'm going, no, that's not right. So counting down the top 10 for 1995 on the IMDb, 7 comes in at number 1 with an 8.6 out of 10. Heat is number 2. Braveheart is number 3. Toy Story, Casino, Before Sunrise, Lahane, 12 Monkeys, and then Ghost in the Shell. Apollo 13 comes in at number 10. And then Sense and Sensibility, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Leaving Las Vegas, Dead Mad Walking, Dead Man, Crimson Tide, Basketball Diaries. Pocahontas is 28.
This is top 10 by the critics?
Oh, this is the general IMDb user rating. With a Bayesian rating.
Okay.
Looking at Letterboxd, it's like Lahane, 7, Before Sunrise, The Pink Floyd Pulse concert film, which, like, I wouldn't say put it the same spot, but that is a good concert movie. I recommend. Underground, which I have not seen. Heat. The Magnetic Rose segment of Memories. The rest of Memories comes in later. Casino. Ulysses Gage. It's like 1, 2, 3, like 5, 12. I think on the list. I don't have it. I can't do it by like number.
Yeah, they
order.
have 12 per row formatted on my screen. That's the maximum if you have it maximized.
Okay, so that's 12. So it's 18, but it's still above Braveheart, still above Usual Suspects. And it's above 12 Monkeys. It's even above Strange Days, which I did not know came out the same year. Speaking of another cyberpunk film.
Controversial.
Go ahead.
I feel like this kind of movie, like aggregate movie ranking, is largely useless.
True. It's fun to look at. It's fun to look at, like, just to see, like, okay, the general, like, vibes of, like, okay, these are the films that came out in this year, and generally where people kind of, like, an aggregate kind of stand on them, but with the notes that film taste is individual, and so
movies are curated experiences, and everyone has different experiences, so they're going to relate to everything differently.
Okay, my question is, sorry, did not mean to.
No, you go.
Are these reviews by since release?
Yes. Yeah.
Or are these?
So for Letterboxd, Letterboxd, this is since release,
Okay,
and same with IMDb.
different. That's going to be really different than just reviews at
so
time of release. Because when people can go back and re-review things and re-examine them, that's going to give you a different view.
Yeah, so the IMDb will be a little more accurate in that sense, just because it existed at the time. 1995 was actually the IMDb's 10th anniversary. It launched as a bunch of Usenet posts in 1985. And was later moved to the World Wide Web when World Wide Web was invented by Tim Berners-Lee in 1991. I may have seen the first web server. I may not. CERN actually didn't realize how big a deal the World Wide Web was going to be. So when they upgraded to a new server, they put that server in a room with 29 other identical computers, and they generally do not know which one was the server. But they have the World Wide Web Museum, which has one of the servers from that room inside a plexiglass case.
Amazing.
Yeah, so Letterboxd being much more recent, it is people going back and reviewing. Generally, I find that I am more in line with Letterboxd reviews than with IMDb reviews. I don't know how much of that is just because Letterboxd is a newer site that hasn't hit the popularity that IMDb had in its peak when it used to be really the only game in town for that kind of thing. And how much of it is when they say, hey, here's another social media website just for movie watchers. How much you have to be a bit of a film nut to be attracted to it. So I think if you look at the percentage of IMDb users who've taken film studies classes versus the percentage of Letterboxd users who've taken film studies classes, I think you will see that Letterboxd is higher, just by the nature of the site and when they came.
Definitely skew the data.
I will say, I did glance at the external reviews on IMDb. This did get a review from Roger Ebert.
Yes, it did.
And he liked it.
Yeah, it said 2 thumbs up right on the DVD case of the anime. It does not say that.
Well, maybe Ebert was dead at the time, but yes.
I knew Siskel for sure. I wasn't sure if Ebert was there or not.
I think by 2017 he had passed. Like he really liked it. He does say outright in his review that he admits that he's not sure, that he thinks the film might be too complex to reach a wider audience, and I definitely get that sentiment, as we've discussed earlier. But just got a strong review. And one of their things with the documentary stuff on the 4K release was that when the film when Ghost in the Shell, the original, first came out on VHS, it was the highest selling VHS when it came out. Not just of animation, just in total, which I like to think is it ain't nothing.
Yep.
For 1995, that ain't nothing.
Much like, again, it had a heavy influence on The Matrix. One of my favorite things about 1999 in that fall, Titanic came out on DVD, and it sold like 150,000 copies. And people were saying, oh my God, yeah, people realize it's not that good and all this. And Paramount and Fox put in a joint statement saying, please understand, yes, we sold 150,000 copies, but there's only about 5,000 or 500,000 Blu-ray players in the market right now. So it's still about 1 in 3 owner. It's still really good. The Matrix came out the next week and broke 1 million because people bought the DVD players to watch it on when they bought the movie. So they literally put out their statement on Monday going, these numbers aren't that bad. And then the very next day, the Matrix broke 1 million because people bought the players to go with it. So.
All right. So, with that, let's talk about what we're covering next month. Next month, for our tabletop role-playing game tie-in anime, we will be discussing Macross II, the OVA tie-in for the anniversary of Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, one of 2 that came out. The other one actually being Macross Plus, which...
Woo! The dub is amazing!
Yep. And Macross Plus is on the 1995 first page of the Letterboxd ranking too for the film version. But we're talking about Macross 2. We'll talk a little bit about the Palladium Games Macross 2 tabletop role-playing game at the time and the Palladium house system. But
I will have opinions.
But yeah, Macross 2 is available for streaming on Disney Plus.
No.
Yep, and also, I think Macross Plus is also going to be available on Disney Plus as well. And hopefully, fingers hopefully, fingers crossed, my Kickstarter Blu-ray of Macross 2 from the Animigo Kickstarter will arrive by then, so I can talk about that too.
Okay. So I can confirm, in Canada, we have both Macross 2 Lovers Again and Macross Plus.
Okay, and you also have, though admittedly it's a bit long for us to cover over the course of a month, you also have Macross 7, finally!
Yes, we have Macross 7 and Macross 7, The Galaxy is Calling Me. Let's just...
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of Macross 7 movies. And OVAs. It's the best one.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to fight space vampires with the power of rock and roll?
Yeah, it's just worth commenting because
robots.
Yeah, this is I'm in Canada. Disney Plus might be the only streaming service outside Canada that might have a bigger library in Canada than in the United States. Simply because Hulu never got permission to come to Canada. So the Hulu library went to Disney Plus instead.
Actually, the Hulu library is on Disney Plus in the US too.
Yeah,
they've merged now.
It took a couple years to get there. We had it when Disney Plus launched. We had the same launch date for Disney Plus in Canada as they had in the US, so we had Hulu there right from the start.
Nice. All right. I just want to say thanks again
for having me.
Us, Blaine.
Yes, it would be nice if I could make it more than 1 month, but you guys have... I'm also a teacher, and I've been moving from temp contract to temp contract in the last few years. I might finally have a school where I'm here long term, but I still have a lot of planning to do this summer because I'm switching schools. I will be teaching 12 courses this year, 10 of which have been determined.
Damn, Blaine.
10 of which are undetermined?
I know I'll be teaching one option each semester. So the semester 2 and 3 options still have to be pinned down, but the list of possibilities is there. I just don't know which one it's going to be.
Okay, is this like you don't know which like science course you're going to be teaching, or is this like I don't know, I might be a music teacher?
No, I know I'm teaching grade
one term.
No, I'm teaching
one of our friends.
Science 789. Science 9 I have taught before, and it's the only course on the list I have taught before. But then the students can also pick one option per semester, and each semester has a different option. So we know I'll be teaching coding in the first semester, and we know the list of courses the students have to pick from for semesters 2 and 3, and I will teach the most popular of those options we are presenting them. So I know likely what it's going to be, but there's also a bunch of other stuff I've never taught before, and some stuff nobody has taught before because the province came up with new draft curricula. So I am teaching.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody's sending good vibes.
So yes, my August will be a whole lot of lesson planning. But this school has slightly differently worded contracts than the rest. So here, if I create stuff for these new courses that nobody's ever taught before and throw it on teachers pay teachers, I have permission to do that. And they don't say, no, we own it. I checked with the VP. She's like, I haven't talked about those clauses. Just do it. So. Yeah, so it'll be a busy year, but should be a good year, and hopefully a long-term position. So the insane workload this year just becomes routine until next year when they rewrite the science curricula. But then it's only 3.
We don't pay our teachers enough, world.
And you know what?
Gotta fix that.
And I am not as stressed about this as I have been in the past, because this is now going to be the 3rd year in a row when I'm teaching at a new school for the first time and teaching 8 or more courses per semester, only one of which I've taught before. So, yes, this is why my daughter still goes daycare full-time during the summers, because I'm here doing stuff.
All right. Well, with that, Blaine, where else can we
the
listeners find your stuff?
The 2 active podcasts I have right now have both been mentioned. So there's the Babylon 5 30 Years Later. I think maybe that one hasn't been mentioned, but I'm doing a Babylon 5 podcast. Oh, yes, I have. Did mention it. We're going through all of Babylon 5 30 years after the broadcast date. So that means we are, at the time that people hear this, we will be throwing out bonus episodes in the long lag before the last few episodes of season 2 came out. So we'll be covering comics and novels and stuff like that to fill in the gaps when the broadcast lags were there. And the other active podcast I have right now is 99 Years, 100 Films, where Trey Hooks and I go through every winner of the Best Picture Academy Awards. And the episode of Anime Explorations you're listening to now will come out very close. I think you're the last Sunday of each month, right? Okay, so that will be very close to July 28th. So the day after this comes out, we'll be releasing our coverage of Braveheart from 1995. And then, as I said, John and I, my Babylon 5 partner and I, have some plans for the future. We are already recording the Star Trek Reading Hour. The odd episodes will be going through every Star Trek novel ever published in release order. But when we looked at that, we said, as much as we love TOS, we don't just love TOS, and that's a whole lot of original series before we get to the rest. So then the even-numbered episodes, we're doing what they call the Treklit universe, where after Voyager went off the air, they were given permission to start playing with long-term continuity things. So the even numbers are building into that. So we've covered some Next Generation and some Voyager stuff, and Deep Space Nine is coming up in the not-too-distant future. And also at some point after our Babylon 5 show is done, we are going to be doing Cherry Pie and Murder. We don't have a release date on that, but we're turning the tables. So Babylon 5, I know very well. John is watching it for the first time ever. And then after the Babylon 5 show is done, we're doing the role reversal, and I'll be doing my first trip through Twin Peaks. So
I'm absolutely looking forward to your Twin Peaks coverage, because I recently, alongside the Nextlander Watchcast, watched all of Twin Peaks for the first time, and I am eagerly anticipating hearing your thoughts. And as with the next Lander Watch cast, you're not going to have to wait 30 years to get to the to the tail end of the story.
No, and then what we do after that depends a lot on what time we have available and where we are. And we have just the Star Trek podcast alone with a monthly release schedule. In order to go through everything we have planned, I have to live to 123 years old. So watch me in the Guinness Book if that podcast finishes.
And as far as us, if you enjoy this podcast and would like to help support it and help cover hosting costs and all that wonderful stuff, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/count0or. That's count ZEROOR. Patreon backers get access to all the stuff I do. My currently ongoing Final Fantasy 16 Let's Play, my prose reviews, my video essays, and, of course, the podcast up to 1 week in advance. If the monthly subscription option doesn't fit your budget, which I understand times are hard, I have a Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/count0. Similar thing there. And well, not so much the early access thing, but just toss a few bucks every now and then if you can afford it. Anything helps. And if you have feedback, shoot us an email at animeexplorationspod@gmail.com. Still haven't actually gotten much in terms of feedback emails yet, so here's your chance to be the first.
Let's grapple with existential questions together.
Yes. So again, catch you all next month for Macross II.